So thank you all guys for joining. And let me start with wishing you all a very good evening. And I hope all of you are doing fine and well today. I am Manjunath. I am the community manager at bitgrit. So I'd be hosting the event for today and I'd be the moderator for the session. And once again, I would like to thank you all for joining. And I would like to welcome in spite of bitgrit for this new webinar series that we are conducting, which is called AI for Business Transformation. And in short about bitgrit, bitgrit is an online AI competition platform geared towards data scientists. In utilizing blockchain technology, bitgrit has paved way for optimal application of data science and AI with context of society and business. The platform changes the way AI is built through democratic crowdsource model and an open source ecosystem. The company is working towards building a platform where data scientists can collaborate, network, and prove their skills in competition and get access to job opportunities and generate income from the skills and hard work. At bitgrit, we believe at AI for all. The benefit to society that is afforded by the automation and efficiency of AI generates should belong to everyone, including small enterprises with underutilized data. Furthermore, we believe that the value generated from AI algorithms should belong to data scientists who have created them. So, in this series of webinar, which is called as AI for Business Transformation, is the first step in providing a knowledge on how AI used in startups, corporates, MNCs, and in government sectors. And we are enabling to do this by bringing up best speakers from various sectors, and they would be presenting up how AI has changed their business and how it has enhanced their business opportunities. Since this is the first webinar of our series, we would like to start with a very important industry that is crucial at the current situation. And yeah, we are talking about healthcare and how AI used in healthcare. To give a bigger insight on this, we have a very reputed speaker who is accepted to give us a keynote session for today. He is Mr. Narayana Rao Sripada. Mr. Narayana Rao Sripada is a CEO, Executive Director of Salcit Technologies. It's a startup focusing on building digital health solutions for respiratory diseases based on respiratory sounds. It is one of the top 20 digital health startups in India. He is not just raised investments and funds from various government bodies. He's also won various awards and recognitions from governments. In brief about Mr. Narayana Rao, he comes with a very extensive experience in working towards various multinational companies such as Texas Instruments, Motorola, and HP. He's also played a he's also worked as a scientist in DRDO, and he's played a very diverse role in technologies and in management domains. He is co-published and he's a co-inventor of two published and two granted patents. He's also working as a manager in VJ Hub, which is an incubation center at a college called VNR Vijnana Jyoti Engineering College at Hyderabad. Mr. Narayana Rao is also mentoring startups on both technology and product engineering, which are involved in building IoT solutions for healthcare, retail, manufacturing verticals, and also on IoT platforms and solution and integrations. So, Mr. Narayana Rao would be taking up from now, and he would be giving us an insight on how AI is being transforming his business and how he's utilized it in the healthcare sector. So, Mr. Narayana, welcome, and you can take over.
Yeah, thank you, Manjunath. Hi all, good afternoon and good evening. I'm Narayan Rao. I'm actually the CEO of Salcit Technologies. As Manjunath mentioned, we are primarily focusing on building digital health solutions for respiratory diseases based on respiratory sounds. So the topic here is AI in healthcare. So let me start with a quick background. As we all know, the clinical data is increasing at a very faster rate. The healthcare workers essentially collect, analyze, and integrate data from multiple sources, and they combine this with their clinical expertise to arrive at decision making. But the volume of information, the rate at which is coming, and also coupled with the time constraints and other cognitive limitations they have, definitely health workers are facing challenge in providing quality and effective services. I mean, as on today, the care delivery is still largely based on monomorbid approaches without really leveraging the advantage of multimorbidity. Just for everyone's benefit, when I say multimorbidity, it is co-occurrence of two or more chronic conditions. So this traditional model of decision making by purely relying on the memory and personal experience is obviously inadequate to really effectively address the 21st century health challenges. Am I right? So the other one is healthcare is also facing another challenge in terms of the staffing. Uh, so because of which there is increased patient waiting times, for taking appointments or consultations with specialists, and it's also impacting overall quality of the healthcare service. So given that context where AI is really playing a role, so the disruptive technologies like AI has potential to drive healthcare delivery to be more efficient, essentially resulting in improved patient experience and outcomes. Finally, that's all what matters. Am I right? The patient experience has to significantly improve, and the outcomes have to be far more better than what they are today. So AI has the potential to analyze and identify patterns in complex data and support healthcare providers in the delivery care, as we all know. So, sorry, that's small. So, in another way, look at it is, the AI is kind of like mimicking the human cognitive functions, helping them in uh, looking at various other data points, be it in differential diagnosis or identifying problems early and so on. So many of you may be knowing AI is a bigger umbrella, which involves a lot of technologies such as natural language processing, machine learning, deep learning, context-aware processing, and intelligent robotics and so on. So when we just compare the and contrast to the analytics, which is actually like more like a predefined set of programs, AI also has the capability of self-learn using historical data. I mean, there are multiple applications in healthcare. In the current context of COVID, I mean, one of the biggest applications is really transforming telemedicine, screening and monitoring, differential diagnosis and disease management. And of course, there are other things like automated administrative tasks, intelligent drug decision, and AI-powered surgical robots, and so on. I am actually going to briefly touch upon the first two. So coming to transforming telemedicine, as all of us understand, essentially by connecting rural patients to urban health centers, this telemedicine should help in reducing specialist wait times and high readmission rates. So the healthcare providers can monitor their patients remotely, whether they are sitting at home or they are in a private or a public health center or in a small private clinic through AI-enabled tools. Through these, obviously, the telemedicine will be transformed to a next level, and we all see now it is more and more practical in the current COVID scenario as well. So with that, let me just give a very high-level background about how we are using AI. So our platform is called SWASA, Respiratory Health Unbound. That's what we call it as. So many of you may be familiar with the spirometry, which is actually a gold standard for identifying any respiratory issues one has. So basically, the patient is asked to blow into the machine based on the airflow characteristics, how much air is able to blow in and how much air he is able to exhale. The test will tell whether your respiratory system is normal or are you having a problem with your airways, or maybe do you have problem with your lung capacity. which essentially mean you are not able to breathe in enough air. So this particular test is actually limited in terms of the location. It can only be performed in a laboratory setup. It requires an equipment, and more importantly, it needs the presence of a technician to guide the patient in performing the test, and also in interpreting the test result. Obviously, because of this location dependency and equipment dependency, one need to have an appointment before the test gets done. So through SWASA, what we are saying is that we will unbind all these constraints: the location, equipment, technician, and appointment. How we just before I mention about how we do this, just one more context is that there are 7 million people die each year worldwide due to respiratory diseases. So the scale of problem is quite big. So the way we do is that we do something called audiometric analysis using machine learning. So we actually capture the individual cough sounds, which gets recorded using the microphone, mobile microphone. And we also use the adventitious sounds, which are recorded through an electronic stethoscope like Wheeze and Crackles. And then we will provide these sounds as an input to our platform, in which the entire core engine is running. And we come up with a very simple output, which is functionally equivalent to what a spirometry does, as I mentioned earlier. So it says whether there is any underlying respiratory problem. If it is it an obstructive disorder or a restrictive disorder, and how severe it is. So we are providing the same functionality of what spirometry, but unbinding it from location, infrastructure, technician, and appointment. Anyone can perform this test. This test can be done in a remote location. Even a user by himself can also perform the test by using his mobile phone. And there is no need to interpret the result. The algorithm automatically provides this output, what I just mentioned. And it is actually available for health practitioner to view at any point of time. In addition, they also can actually play the sounds which got recorded while the user has performed the assessment. So this is how we are actually using the AI in our journey. And there are few use cases, like assessments and screening is one major use case. So our platform greatly uh, multiplies the reach of screening mechanism and minimizing the associated costs. So essentially the tracking begins with the very first test, and the health practitioner will have a very comprehensive view of screened patient population. And the another important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is differential diagnosis. Like the output of the AI, the output from AI model is one of the many pieces of information a doctor synthesizes to diagnose respiratory issues proactively and efficiently. So there is a lot of temporal analysis we will provide, where basically doctor will be able to see how these symptoms are varying over in the last few days, and based on that he can make to some kind of an understanding whether there is a wheeze is increasing relatively in the last few days, or is it like a dry cough count is frequency is significantly increasing, which is actually the more cause of concern, especially in the current context of COVID. Right? So then, of course, the third use case is really the disease management, wherein once the patient gets diagnosed and he gets discharged. So especially for chronic conditions like COPD and asthma, those need to be managed and see that the patient is recovering and he's not really experiencing any problems. So it all goes with the patient by himself monitoring the sound characteristics, and basically which are readily available to the health workers. So health workers can make evidence based referrals to medical practitioners or rehabilitation centers, and essentially it all helps in predicting increased risk and alerting patients and specialists. So managing individual plan of action and tracking progress, these are all the, like, the complete process or the life cycle of a disease management. Definitely our platform is able to help in this aspect as well. So that's basically a brief background about our platform, the SWASA, what we are doing, especially using audiometric evaluation of respiratory sounds to really address some of the problems in screening and monitoring of respiratory diseases, differential diagnosis and disease management. So in general now, that assuming that the AI gets deployed into the healthcare, there are, these are some of the advantages. Many of you may already be knowing it. So basically, it helps in improving the productivity. The use of UI can make certain time-consuming, repetitive time processes faster and more efficient. I mean, there are some statistics which are available, like, for example, the use of AI-enabled tools increases productivity by about 30 to 50% when it comes to nursing. Essentially, the combination of AI and human intelligence, of what we call it as an augmented intelligence, has been considered as a powerful approach to deliver the fundamental, the mission of healthcare, to really improve the patient experience and outcomes. Similarly, the workload, it can be a lot more balanced. The high workload is considered as one of the occupational stressor, especially in the healthcare. Like for example, it seems like physicians spend about 49% of their time in just going through the electronic health records and the other information in an ambulatory setting. Which is almost close to 50% of their time. Am I right? So AI can help solve that kind of a problem by auto-populating or actually giving him some kind of a structured way to query the information, and then based on that, he will quickly be able to understand what need to be done, kind of a thing. That's right. So, perform a productivity improvement, workload balance, and as I mentioned, especially on the performance, AI tools have potential to really improve diagnostic decisions. And I don't think today, anyone is claiming that it's a replacement to a physician or a doctor or a health worker. It is really augmenting what they are doing. It is making them more efficient, in providing multiple additional data points in a more simple and easy way to understand for them, to make the decision making more robust. That's all what it is. Am I right? So, like there are examples like AI has been reported to improve the assessment of medical imaging to detect cases such as malignancy and diabetic retinopathy, which actually Google is working very closely. And basically, AI can also automatically review clinical documents and either extract information for quality reporting or a population decision making and so on. So these are all about the various advantages, but I just want to cover few challenges also. Some of these are based on our own personal experiences. So any of you, if you are actually trying to build AI solutions, one thing you need to keep in mind is completely new technology or a new way of diagnosis. It's very, very difficult for the adaptation. I mean, it's hard, however good your idea or IP is, okay, it's hard for people to get accepted. So you somehow need to start with mapping to existing test methods. Is that right? In our case, when we say, it's a confirmative diagnosis for X disease or a Y disease, we found it very, very difficult. But the moment we started telling it is somewhat similar to spirometry, people started listening. Okay, fine. Now I understand what spirometry is. Now you are telling there is an alternate way to provide. Okay, let me listen to what you have, kind of. So it's one of the thing which is a hard learning for us. And one more important thing, especially if you actually wanted to really go global and have your technology available across the world, it's the regulatory approvals getting is really very, very challenging. And if you completely position your technology as a new, breakthrough kind of a thing which so far not available, very difficult for you to get the regulatory approvals. The time of the kind of effort what you need to put in, the amount of investment you need to really put in. Beyond that, you don't even know how success it is. The getting the approval without having a predicate. So what essentially means is that you need to kind of like position your technology in such a way that it is somewhat similar to an already existing device with some alternate way of doing or more efficiently doing the same functionality or maybe little additional functionality. So these are some of the things which one need to keep in mind, especially when getting into the market. Of course, there are so many other things which you all are aware, like the professional liability. Like there are questions like how to really believe in decisions from the AI. If it actually wrongly predicts something, who is liable in the entire ecosystem? Because there are so many stakeholders are involved. So like, the legal liability of AI supported decisions, especially when you have a clinically integrated functionality, that becomes a lot more challenging. And there are ethical considerations like, obviously one of the biggest challenges, the technology is limited by the quality data sets. And again, this is again our own personal experience. When we talk to people, many people say that your data set is not really representing a wider population. It's very much narrow. It's in a one geography, or even within a country it is actually in from one area. So those kind of questions come up, and you need to really handle uh, a mechanism to have a mechanism to really have a wider population of data sets in your the algorithms and so on. And more importantly, to a further extent that the statistical analysis, like how do you arrive at your the size of your sample size, subjects, and at what frequency do you collect, what is your inclusive criteria, exclusive criteria for collecting data. All that is really a very big challenge. So nowadays we are all listening a lot of press about the explainable AI. I mean, people are now want, don't consider this just as a black box. Give us, explain what this really the AI system is telling. So that's where this explainable AI is also slowly, taking momentum. So as I mentioned, I just want to conclude the session with one of the important thing is really the statistical data analysis. Especially people who want to start their journey with AI, building algorithms or learning about how they can actually help in solving some of these problems. One very fundamental thing you need to understand is like, the statistics, which play a very crucial role in really the planning and decision making in health science, which many of engineers are not aware of really. So for example, the detection of risk factors for health, comparisons of treatments and diagnosing diseases, all these are really common studies which are based on a lot of statistical data analysis. So you need to have a greater depth of that statistical aspects in your team. So what is happening is that the people who are building the models, they are actually non-statistician researchers, or they don't have that kind of a that solid background in terms of really taking this paying the attention to this statistical analysis. For example, inappropriate use of statistical techniques not only leads to false conclusions and thus the most suitable decision being taken to improve people health status. There are few examples like, when what I mean by statistical analysis is the variation in data being collected from different sources. You see, the data is coming from in some cases it might come from sensors, it might come from the electronic health records, it might come from various other the sources. Like how do you really understand the variation in the data which is being collected from different sources, and how do you actually really use those different data sets in your algorithm? Is that right? And as I mentioned, you don't really have a robust method for coming up with sample size determinations. And how do you do statistical analysis? The kind of variables you use for your analysis. Like for example, not every data may be following a Gaussian distribution. Then what will you do? How will you analyze that? Okay. That's what I mean by understanding the structure of data and using the clustering methods for initial analysis, and like deleting outliers. I mean, there are a lot of outliers in your data. You must be aware of that, and you must have a mechanism to really filter out those outliers. I mean, this is just an example. Like, for example, here someone is telling that an investigator wants to estimate the prevalence of breast cancer among women who are in the age of 40 and 45 years living in Boston. I mean, if you just go by a standard statistical methods based on existing prevalence and the other aspects, there is a standard formula mathematically. You can substitute the variables, and it is telling that you need 16,448 subjects. I mean, imagine, like, if you want to build a model for detecting breast cancer, just for one particular city, if you require 16,448 samples, just what will this be if you want to build this kind of a model which is globally acceptable? It's like unimaginable. Is that right? So sample size determined based on statistical criteria versus financial constraints. I mean, to collect such kind of a data set, you require huge amount of investment, which is just practically impossible. Now, how do you really balance? No, there are no right answers for that. There is no thumb rule or a golden rule which one need to follow, but it's actually it, a good team with medical background, engineering background, and then the statistical background. They will be able to sit together and really come up with the most important sample size, which actually will be able to provide the required functionality. That's right. And of course, there are a few other things like how do you label the data. uh, See, one of the difficult thing, especially in India, is that uh, whichever clinical study you do it, basically the principal investigator may not have sufficient time to really go and annotate the data, and he assigns the job to the other people, who, when they are doing labeling, how quality how much trust you can have in that label. So that's actually a cause of concern. And how many labels will you have, so all these are some of the things which you need to be worried about when you are actually designing solutions for this thing. So essentially, all that what I just wanted to cover is that, yes, AI is disruptive, no doubt about it, and this is well proven that it is actually helping in various applications, be it screening, decision making, differential diagnosis, disease management, and so on. And in addition to even in the administrative tasks, as I mentioned earlier. And then there are a lot of advantages, starting from productivity improvement, performance, giving better performance, and basically workload balancing, all that really resulting in improved outcomes, as I mentioned, reduced cost and readmissions for the patient. All this is happening, but at the same time there are so many challenges one need to be worried about, starting from how do you position your technology, what is that you are actually going to get it into the market. And there are challenges in terms of data collection and really doing statistical analysis on the data, identifying your sample sizes and all. These are some of the things one need to really keep in mind. So with that, I'm actually done what I just wanted to cover. And yeah, I mean, we can take the questions as Manjunath moderates over them after this thing. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your mentoring, and thank you for guiding a lot of other upcoming entrepreneurs and to see where they would be heading to. And coming up to the questions will be taken up in the Q&A session from 4. Mr. Purnachandra Rao has,
Yeah,
since
so
you have answered it,
yeah,
yeah.
correct. So basically, what he said, yeah, Apollo COVID risk scanner has a cough scan, which is actually our own proprietary cough scan. We integrated with Apollo.
Okay, so your company was the one that was integrated with Apollo's cough
Yeah,
analysis,
correct.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Punachandra Rao, I hope that qualifies your query. If you have any other questions. Yes, so we have one more query. So it's from Gautam. He asked
Yeah.
that does outliner.
Outliers. Yeah, so she outliers is essentially mean, say for example, you are collecting uh, uh, images of oranges, and now those you have about 1,000 data points of orange images, and say in those 1,000, maybe you have some of them are like, maybe apples or some other fruits which have some close resemblance to oranges, but they are not really oranges. So they are not, you should not be using the data for really training your algorithms and so on. I mean, basically, you consider them as outliers. They are not really fitting into the curve, for your data sets. So you somehow need to filter them out. That's what it is actually. Yeah, I mean, you should, ideally, you should not be using that data for your analysis spectrum. Yes, that's pretty right. So Manjunath, 1,500 data scientists across the globe. Am I right?
Yes, sir. It's across the globe. Exactly.
And which is actually quite a big number. I mean, to definitely start. So, are you saying it is like the all these are freelancers who are ready to really provide their services to the companies?
Yes, they're kind of like they work in the competition model. So I think Sarfraz would be the best person to explain how the community is working
Hmm.
and how these people are engaged in these problem solving methods. Sarfraz, can you?
Yeah, sure. Mr. Narayana, hi, Sarfraz here.
Yeah.
Basically, the community is not, the platform is global.
Hmm.
And when you have a web-based platform, that means you don't have to bother about from which particular geographic location that person is based.
Yeah.
So as of now, the importance and the relevance is you need to get data scientists, you need to understand what they want, and you need to give it to them. So as of now, what we have is more than 15 to 20,000 data scientists on our platform globally.
Hmm.
So these are like freelancers, as you rightly said. So the aim of bitgrit is to build an AI marketplace.
Hmm.
So that will be a tokenized marketplace. We
Yeah.
will definitely be launching our coin. The name of the coin is Grit Coin,
Hmm.
and we want to make a tokenized economy for that. So there will be it's like on one side there will be data scientists, and
Hmm.
on the other side there will be corporates, there will be clients. So the clients definitely will have some kind of requirements,
Hmm.
right? So whether they want to efficiently manage the process, or they want to generate something out of it. So these data scientists, if they have been given a problem statement or a data set, so they generate an algorithm for you,
Hmm.
right? So a random example, we had a soft rank competition on our platform last year, and
Okay.
they wanted and the competition was related to forex.
Okay.
So what exactly the currency rate would be the next day.
Hmm.
So that's very difficult to predict unless there is an algorithm or something running behind, and the algorithm needs to be on par with what exactly the market sentiments are.
Hmm.
So they gave a problem statement, a totally finance related problem statement, which we placed on our platform.
Hmm.
We got more than 2,000 submissions,
Okay.
which we provided to the client. Obviously, the client will decide which or they want to implement in the system, the best one. But the accuracy level that we gave was 99 point something, which
Okay.
was just close to 100. And the algorithm will run overnight and
Hmm.
predict, and the algorithm will predict, and the currency value, basically the cross currency value for instance USD JPY. So
Hmm.
today USD JPY can be something around uh, say $1 or $100 equal to 1,000 JPY.
Hmm.
So the algorithm can predict something like 1,000 point something, even if in decimals. The client can actually hedge that amount in the market and can reap the benefits of it. So
Okay.
this is basically the competition that we placed for them. The competition did had a prize money. All the future competition will definitely have a prize money as well, and that's very transparent to the client. So the prize money was $10,000,
Okay.
which went out to the participant. So these participants are data scientists, and
Okay.
that's what they get to participate. There is no registration fee for any data scientist. It's free registration. So that means they have to just utilize their skills. And the timeline is also flexible because the competition runs for around 3 months. It's totally depends. So the competition ran for 3 months,
Okay.
and they have to download and work on the data. And once they are comfortable, they can, and we do have a leaderboard as well. So once they upload, they will be able to see how accurate the data is, or the solution is, and they
Okay.
can rework on it.
Okay. Okay.
That's how we derived to a conclusion that yes, once the timeline is over, we got around 2,000 plus solutions which was provided to the client, and we helped the client to implement it as well, like backend infrastructure kind of thing.
Mhm.
So this is just a glimpse of what the competition platform works and how it looks like.
Okay, so basically you are saying after the competition, depending on the best solutions, the client might work with those guys offline to really build, the whatever is required in terms of his requirement. Is that right?
So it all depends because actually the algorithm has been given to the client.
Okay.
So, since you are the client, you have some requirement. We have ran a competition for you. The
Okay.
competition gets over tomorrow. I
Mm.
give you all the solution, all the algorithms to you. And we help you to implement it in your system.
Okay.
And once the algorithm is running fine and you're happy with it, that
Yeah.
means almost our job is done.
Okay.
So we help you for a couple of months. That's what I understand.
Okay.
And yeah, that's how it is. And yes, the people who are participating in this competition, you get a chance to hire them as well. So
Okay.
because obviously they are freelancers, they're not been hired by bitgrit, they are part of the bitgrit community.
Okay.
So yeah.
From my side, all that I need to is like how much money I'm actually going to put in for getting this algorithm. It can be either a prize money or it's primarily the what is that called competition winner award money. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. So these terms, basically we decide initially itself, and we give the client clear-cut indication that this is the amount. Oh, okay. So maybe we can definitely talk offline about it,
Yeah,
but
sure, sure. Yeah, no
but
problem. Yeah.
just to give you an idea that yes, the client, like, yeah, if you decide that yes, Sarfraz, this is my budget, we give you a glimpse about how much will be required to run a competition, what kind of a prize money do we expect, and
Yeah.
what solution and what complexities are there, and the services that we provide in after the competition as well. So these
Mhm.
are the things that we discuss with the client. The client is comfortable to place a competition. He decides that yes, this is the amount that I would love to place for as a prize money, because obviously that goes directly to the participant. There is
Okay.
nowhere involved in it. So
Mm.
we help you to place this competition on our platform,
Okay.
and yeah, the services that we give is also part of this contract. So
Okay.
what I understand is bitgrit as a community, we are we are actually focused towards the community.
Mm.
That means delivering the best to the community, and the upcoming students who would like to get a glimpse about what the real world problem is, and they will love to work out of the textbook context as well. So
Okay.
that's where they get a chance to work on all these problem
Yeah,
statements.
I agree. I agree. I mean, basically, this AI is right now, younger generation knows a lot more than the experienced guys.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to talk to you more about this, and thank you very much once again. Thanks,
Sure, sure.
Manjunath, and thank you, sir, for actually accepting the invitation of our webinar. The participants, I appreciate your time, and I hope you have loved today's webinar. We will regroup ourselves for the next webinar. Keep in touch with us on Meetup page or Bitgrit channels. You can follow us on LinkedIn as well, Facebook, any social media handles you will see of Bitgrit. We are there as a community, we are there as a company and a corporate. So yes, please follow us, do like and share the materials that we post on the social media sites. And if anyone would love to get more insights about how the competition platform runs and what different kind of solutions do we have, yes, we can actually have a separate call for that. So thank you once again, guys, and hope to speak to you soon.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Manjunath.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you all
Yeah,
for joining me for today.
no problem. Thank you.